Hey everyone, welcome to Wax Pack Wisdom, where we talk baseball history through card breaks and the cards we love. My name is Jake T. O'Donnell, and today we're going on a little bit of a special journey, very different from any other video that we've done so far, and I'm really psyched to talk to you guys about my journey to building the complete set of 1959 Topps. And it all started probably about 30 years ago with this card, this Walt Dropo card. If you watched our first My Collection video, and I will be planning on getting back to doing more soon, we talked a little bit about Walt Dropo. I have his 1950 Bowman rookie card. This card is from 1959, the 1959 Topps set, and this card has been in my collection for many years. This would be when he was with the Reds. He had spent some years with the Red Sox. As you can tell here, he dropped off. He did not have as good of a career following that rookie year. He got injured and was never quite the same player, bounced around a bit. He didn't play too much longer after this. His nickname was the Moose. He was from Moosip, Connecticut. He ended up living the rest of his life in the Massachusetts area, lived on the North Shore, and he was just he was a fascinating character in Red Sox history. He still holds the rookie home run record, but like I said, bounced around through the years. One of the reasons why this card was always so interesting to me is because notice here the name of the team, the Cincinnati Redlegs, not the Reds. For a period of time in the 50s and 60s, the Cincinnati Reds went by the Redlegs. I don't think that the team ever officially confirmed this or said this, but there was an era of fervent anti-communism in the United States, and the term Reds had a different connotation to it than it does now. And so for a period of time in the 50s and into the early 60s, the Reds called themselves the Redlegs, and eventually they changed back to the Reds. But that was always fascinating to me that was on the baseball cards, that they were the Redlegs and not the Reds. But I always liked this Walt Dropo card. I always liked the look of the 1959 Topps set. And as I've sort of got back into collecting cards and doing these videos, doing the break videos on my Instagram last year, and then starting this channel with my wife in June, I started thinking more about how I wanted to try to complete more of my collection in terms of getting cards of Hall of Fame players. And I had a list of players. I still have the list of players of players whose cards I want to acquire from their playing career. And one of the names on the list was Don Drysdale, Hall of Fame pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Spent years later as a broadcaster. And I had an opportunity to buy a Don Drysdale card, and I want to shout out at Decard Shop, DACARD SHOP. Fish is the owner of that. Sells cards on the X app or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And I had the opportunity to buy a really sharp-looking Don Drysdale card from him, and it's this card. Really nice, very sharp, raw 1959 Topps Don Drysdale card. And it was a great price, and I have to once again shout out Fish. He does an amazing job selling very clean, mostly raw cards for very fair prices on the X app. Definitely give him a follow if you want to try to acquire vintage at good price. Very honest, very clear and upfront about what condition the cards are in, that kind of thing. But I thought this was a really nice Don Drysdale card. You can see there, Don's nickname is Airedale, and I like the dog there. But Don Drysdale was such a great right-handed pitcher for so many years on so many great Dodgers teams, and again, eventually was elected to the Hall of Fame. I didn't have a Drysdale in my set, so I got this one. So then I started thinking about who else I don't have in my collection. And when you think about Don Drysdale, he's somewhat inextricably linked to Sandy Koufax. One of the greatest left-handed pitchers in history. They formed such a feared duo in the early 60s during a dominant run for the Dodgers. And Drysdale and Koufax go together. Their names are inextricably linked. They also later were very key figures in terms of what eventually became the Players Association when they held out for more money from Walter O'Malley, the owner of the Dodgers. And, they were some of the first players to have agents. So I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to have a nice 59 Drysdale, maybe I should get, and I need a Koufax for my collection too, maybe I should get the 59 Koufax to go with the 59 Drysdale. So that's what I did. I got this very nice 59 Koufax. It's not as nice as the Drysdale. You can kind of tell it's got a ding. It's got a crease in the bottom right corner, the bottom left corner there, facing the card. Some creases in it. It's not quite as nice, but it's a nice Koufax. I actually bought this one. I believe it was a buy it now on eBay. So there you go. I have my Drysdale and I have my Koufax, both 59s. This is the second year that the Dodgers were in Los Angeles, the second year that they were in California after they moved from Brooklyn. And these guys were, again, so at this point, 1959, and again, the Dodgers win the World Series in 1959, which I should point out. They beat the White Sox, and that's something that we're going to talk quite a bit about, that baseball in 1959 and baseball in this era. Koufax didn't become Koufax until a couple of years later. And one of the things I think that gets pointed out on the back of this card is the fact that he was sixth in the National League in strikeouts in 1958. But the problem was he walked a lot of guys. You can see this, 1958, he has 131 strikeouts, but he also has 105 walks and an ERA of about 4.5. He's a couple years away from figuring out that he doesn't need to throw the ball so hard every time and eventually turning into one of the greatest pitchers to ever live, possibly the greatest left-handed pitcher to ever live, and having one of the most dominant runs through the mid-60s, his last year being 1966, before he decided to retire because of a degenerative condition in his shoulder and his arm. And so I thought, okay, this is great. And as I'm looking at these cards, I'm realizing how great this 1959 set is. How these cards are a sort of perfect distillation of the designs of where the cards were in the 1950s and where they were heading in the 1960s. I invite people to look at the cards from 57, 58. At this point, Topps was pretty much on top of the world. Fleer had cards, and one thing that's interesting about the 59 set is that there's no Ted Williams because he had an exclusive deal with Fleer, and Fleer made a whole set of cards, which I showed you some of them in my My Collection video, the two 1959 Fleer Ted Williams cards that I have. But Topps was the only game in town, really. They had bought Bowman, and they were in charge. And you can kind of see with these cards the direction that they were going, the sort of focus on design around the player, but also the player itself being in the middle and the circle. And a few weeks ago when I bought both of these cards, it started to hit me that I was like, this 1959 set is really cool. And I'm a fan of the television show Mad Men, one of the greatest shows of all time. These cards look like they could have been designed by Sterling Cooper. Like they could have been designed by Don Draper. These are like mid-century modern baseball cards to me. And I thought this was so fascinating. So I started to think also about who else I could get in terms of players that I want for my collection. And I bought, another card that I needed was Richie Ashburn. So I went ahead and another eBay auction. I bought this Richie Ashburn card. Richie Ashburn, one of the great Phillies. This was probably near the end of his term with the Phillies. Outfielder, not like a huge power hitter, more of a leadoff guy. Great defender, and so I think underrated by history. But this was a nice card. And again, you kind of see that, not all the cards are yellow. They're all kinds of interesting colors, these cards, and an interesting look. So I got that one, and then I was at a card show, and I bought this Bill Skowron card. We're talking about guys whose nickname was Moose. We had Walt Dropo, whose nickname was The Moose, and Bill Skowron, whose nickname was just Moose. And people think of him as Moose Skowron. I have a couple other Moose Skowron cards. I picked this up at a card show. I picked this up at the the card show that was at Big Night Live, which is in TD Garden in Boston a few weeks ago. The name of that show is escaping me right now, but it was fun. Picked up some good cards, and I was just going through like some sort of loose common cards, and picked up this nice Bill Skowron card. And I was like, okay, that's another cool one. And then during one of the vintage card threads that happened on the X app, someone posted that they were selling this card, and I want to shout out. That the seller was at Phillies Cards 1, at Phillies Cards, the number 1, and that's the number 1, was selling a few 59s. And I bought this Johnny Padres, who was another great pitcher from the Dodgers in that era. He was a star, a hero of the 1955 World Championship team, the only one that happened in Brooklyn. And excuse me, I bought this card from at Phillies Cards 1. And then they posted a few other cards about a week or so later. Orlando Cepeda card. I think Bob Friend was one of them. And I wanted to buy a couple more of those to add some more 59s because I thought they were cool. So then I asked the gentleman, I said, do you happen to have any other 59s? Because that was the first time I kind of allowed myself to think, I want to build the complete set of 59 tops. And not only did at Phillies Cards 1 have more 59 tops, they had over 300 cards from a recent collection, over 500 cards from a recent collection purchase. So this X app user and I worked out a deal, and I ended up acquiring over 300 cards, mostly commons, from this set, the 1959 top set. So I was well on my way to building the complete set of 1959 tops, and I've continued to be well on my way. So I'm not quite there yet, and it's something we're going to be talking about on this channel. We're already at about 12 minutes to this video. I just want to quickly run through just a couple more things. I was going to share some more cards from this, but we've spent enough time on this, and there's going to be more of an opportunity to talk about some of the cool things. If you've been following along on social media, you know that I did acquire a very important card from this set recently, but we'll talk about that in another video. I wanted to just share a few things. First thing is that if you are in the market of selling cards, if you're in the market of selling 59 tops cards, I'm open to buying them. I still need a bunch more for my set. There's going to be a link in the bottom of this card, and I'm going to have Johnny be joined by his Dodgers rotation mates here. There's a bunch of cards that I have listed that I need as part of my needs to complete this set, and there's a link to where you can find all of those cards below. Would love your help and I want to help out small card dealers, that kind of thing. I don't want to buy more cards on eBay. eBay charges, I think it's about 13%. So my preference would be to buy directly from people as opposed to buying stuff on eBay. So please take a look at that and let me know if you have a line on where I could fill out the rest of those. Again, I want to thank the folks that I've purchased these from previously. I went to a card show the weekend that I'm recording this. I went to a card show in Mansfield, Mass, and bought from a bunch of different card dealers. A lot of fun. I'm going to continue to do that. Try to find ones locally here in the Massachusetts area, in the New England area in general. Would love to help them out. So we're going to get back to this. I'm going to have regular updates, and then eventually we're going to kind of go through pretty much all of the cards in the set. I would say let's go through all of the cards and talk about the people. It's not just players. There's some interesting cards. For example, the first card in the entire set is of the commissioner of baseball at the time, Ford Frick, which, okay, whatever. I don't have that card yet. I'm in search of that one. And, let's see what we get. And I want to talk about baseball in this era, 1959, really fascinating time for the game. The Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants had moved out to California. The game truly was becoming the national pastime because of the fact that these players were, the teams were in other parts of the country, not just the East Coast and not just east of St. Louis. So it's a fascinating time. It's been really fun to acquire these cards and learn about different players and learn about them and players that I didn't know anything about. So let's go on this journey together. It's going to be fun. And like I said, check out the link below for what I'm still searching for. Would appreciate any help, any leads to try to complete this set. I've made incredible progress already. It's only been 5 or 6 weeks, and I already have either in my possession or I'm going to have, as of this recording, about 70% of the cards in the set already. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope it continues to be fun. I hope to continue to be able to share all this with you. So that's going to do it for this edition of Wax Pack Wisdom. Tell me what you thought about this video, about the players that I shared their cards. What's your favorite card that I showed you today? Do you have a story about any of them? Do you have a story about anybody from the 1959 set? Do you have any story about any of the 59 set in particular? Let me know. I would love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our Wax Pack Wisdom content. In the video description below, you can find links to where to follow Wax Pack Wisdom on all social media channels. You'll also find a link to a list of our favorite nonprofits and charities. If you enjoyed this video, please consider a donation to one of those organizations. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Wax Pack Wisdom. Take care.